Hey guys, welcome back to the Building Blocks of Business, a podcast show where we dive in and explore various aspects of the business world. This show is brought to you by eCell NITK in association with NITK Toastmasters Club. I'm your host Rahul Harikumar, a second year BTech student in the Mechanical Engineering department. Today, you're listening to the first episode of Season 2 Startup Stories, a season which introduces you to entrepreneurship and goes through the journey and the various endeavors in the life of an entrepreneur. In today's conversation, I get to sit with our guest Abhinav Pathak, an NITK alumnus from the batch of 2015. Abhinav is the CEO of Perpule, which is one of the fastest growing retail tech companies in India and is on a mission to build the commerce platform for India. He was also nominated for the world renowned Forbes 30 Under 30. Thank you for accepting the invitation and it's great to have you with us, sir. How are you, sir, and how has the COVID pandemic treated you and your company?
Hey, thanks, Rahul. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's always great to come back to college and engage on different fronts. So thanks a lot for calling me. Pleasure is all mine. And about the COVID pandemic, I think things are looking now much better than what they were back in April, May, June. So I think those 3 months were of massive stress for everyone, and primarily because of the unpredictability and uncertainty. Slowly, humans have seen many other such pandemics. So I think it becomes a habit beyond a point. I think to a great extent, business is as usual, not just for us, but for a good chunk of folks, obviously with a few changes that we are fully still working from home and would continue with that. So I think a few changes like those do happen, and those are the good things of the pandemic, hopefully, which gives and forces the whole, you can say, mankind to change at scale. So I think those are the good things, but largely, I think we are fairly, you can say, roughly where we were pre-COVID. So although it took almost 7-8 months for the recovery to happen, but it has happened, and the future looks much better from here on. And I'm getting the same sentiment from all the other fellow entrepreneurs also that I kind of interact with.
That's great to hear, sir. So, speaking about your company, where did you get your entrepreneurial spirit from, and what was your key driving force to become an entrepreneur?
Great question, actually. And honestly, it is not just one thing. I think a combination of a few factors and things that happened in my life, which sequentially just fell in place very well. So I think first I would say I was a very active part of ECell in my college. I think second year onwards I was a part of it, and up till final year I used to contribute as much as I can to the best of my capacities in the time. And I think I learned a lot. Second year definitely, because it was one of the most vibrant clubs, I'm sure still is, in the college. You get to kind of interact a lot with the final year students and even a good chunk of pass outs. So I think that's the other good thing which ECell is blessed with, that there is so much so many, you can say, distinguished alumni who have gone on to build great companies, the likes of Practo, Taxi for Sure, etc. They were the talk of the town during my time. And via ECL, I could get to interact with them, engage with them, learn a lot from their journeys. Basically, that's the maximum level of inspiration you can get while you are at college. So I think that was very significant contributor, because honestly, before even coming to college, I didn't even know that you can really run a company. You can build a company out of nowhere. That just never occurred to me. So I think a good chunk of that thinking was built in and kind of bought into my thought process via ECL. Significant contributor, definitely. The second most significant would be, I think, Steve Jobs. So I just randomly kind of read the book Steve Jobs, which is like his biography. Pretty interesting, and I think I definitely call it a life-changing book. You start looking at life in a very different way after reading that book and post reading that book. Before and after reading that book. So I think a few other minor things like that, it all finally constituted that, look, at some point I want to be an entrepreneur, because that is something that would really give me the satisfaction from my work life. So it's good to kind of work somewhere, take some, you can say, work X, learn how things really work. And at some point it was quite clear before even graduating from college that I would want to run my own business, run my own company, and be an entrepreneur.
So it's extremely inspiring knowing how much Steve Jobs and eCell has played a large role in your career. So being in the field of entrepreneurship, it sometimes may be hard to find motivation, as you know. So what do you think best motivates you, and have your entrepreneurial motivations changed since you started in 2016?
It only becomes better over time, because once you're in, there isn't really any out per se. but still, I mean, if you look at it, how it works and how you motivate yourself, it's hard. I'll be very honest about that. It's not like it's something easy, because it's very well said, right? Once you get at the top, it's more lonely than you can really think of. So it's definitely hard. It's quite challenging. But the good thing is that you can say the community is coming along very well. I mean, if you see the number of recent entrepreneurs now in the last 5 years, has just massively increased. It's just compounding at some unprecedented pace. And most of them now are there. Like probably 10 years back, if you look, there weren't any successful entrepreneurs building multi-million dollar companies at age of 25, 26. Now it has become a lot more common, a lot more frequent. So a lot more relatable stories are available in the market. And thankfully, because of the community, you can actually reach out to the folks and talk to them about their problems, because the problems of an entrepreneur are just very different. Like there are very few people who can really understand that. They can definitely be a very good, you can say, source to chat with. Like you should definitely talk about your problems to your spouse if you have, or your girlfriend, or your mom, dad, parents. I mean, wherever you kind of live with, that definitely helps you relax a lot more. But the best is, I mean, when you reach out to another entrepreneur, right, and you hear the same stories that they're also struggling. So I think everyone's struggling and everyone's still thriving and not losing motivation in itself gives me a lot of confidence that, look, I'm not the only one. The whole, you can say, a bunch of like hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs won't perish overnight, right? So struggle is the other side of life, which doesn't get, you can say, that kind of attention, but it is a reality. So initially, that's how I used to kind of keep balance. Thankfully, I have a very good bunch of advisors, mentors, fellow entrepreneurs who kind of guide me a lot, tell me their side of stories, which gives you a lot of confidence that, look, this is just a phase and it will pass. So I think those kind of things really help.
That's great to know, sir. So, speaking about entrepreneurship, you definitely have experienced failures and various tough moments in your business practice. Could you share a story of one of your toughest moments and how you overcame it? Or how did you succeed to get over it and move forward?
Sure, absolutely. So I think we look at failures very objectively. Failures are basically mass learning exercises, and we really talk a lot about it internally. I have personally failed at a lot of things, and I'm very open to kind of talk about them to my team so that people can really take learning. That's the larger agenda of what failures really are. And more often, if you really try to evaluate, the economics of failure is actually pretty small. It doesn't affect you a lot, but one thing you understand over a period of time, that if you fail a lot of times, it's perfectly fine. Eventually you will succeed, and the success would pay for hundreds and thousands of failures. That's how the economics really is skewed towards, and it works very well. And you will fail more often than you will succeed. You have to kind of just keep calm and accept this fact. This is not just for you alone, it's for everybody else as well. So I think knowing how failure really is not something to really feel sad about, it's actually something quite inspirational, through which you can get learning in the fastest and the quickest possible way. So that's how we look at failure. That's the kind of culture we have tried to inculcate internally at Perpule as well. Coming to the most, you can say, deadly failure that I have recently or in my kind of journey witnessed, there are many, but I can quickly share one short story. So we started Perpule with a single point vision to basically transform the offline stores and basically enable self-checkouts. So how this was supposed to work is that any customer would go to an offline retail store, say a Big Bazaar or a Hypercity. He or she would kind of take out their mobile phone, start picking up items from the shelf. Every item would have a barcode. They can scan that barcode using the mobile app and digitally add it to their mobile card, and also keep the item physically with them. They kind of repeat this whole process. When they are done shopping, they can just check out and pay in the app itself, and they'll get a digital invoice. They can straight away go out of the store after that. That's how we kind of envisioned the journey, and then we kind of started on that. We kind of focused on this as a single point agenda for the first 12 to 15 months. But eventually we understood that, look, a setup like this is too aspirational and it's more unrealistic in the scenarios of today. And this whole 12 to 15 months of effort was basically a failure, because we could not scale this aggressively beyond a point. We could only get to, say, 100 stores, just a couple of $1 million in GMV. They're just very small. I mean, we didn't want to build a company which is not like a very, very large one, because that's the inherent entrepreneurial ambition. So after running this whole exercise with all the effort for 12 to 15 months, it's a lot of time, we concluded that, look, this is not what would scale given the circumstances in India and the, you can say, technology levels at which the Indian retailers are. Then we kind of have to shelf it completely. After putting so much effort in it, because things were not scaling beyond a point, we had to kind of shelve it. But that's, I think, the most interesting piece as well, and that's the key differentiator between, you can say, good to great, right? I mean, there's a very beautiful book by Jim Collins, and this is what he really talks about, that the things which are not really game changing, if you don't remove them, there is no way that you can kind of really move towards great. So I think that aspiration has always been there for us. Even after working on the whole self-checkout piece for 12 to 15 months, we kind of shelved it because we understood that, look, this will not scale at the pace at which we really want the company and the business to scale. This is not the most critical thing we would do for retailers. After shelving, it took us probably 4 to 6 months to kind of reinvent ourselves. But again, we kind of pivoted and we came on to a new, you can say, product, which is called UltraPOS, which is a very, very different product than what self-checkout really was. But ever since, for the last 2.5 years, it has been scaling beautifully. So I think that's the flavor. I mean, obviously, when we were going to shelve it, it was really, really hard and quite stressful because we had no idea if we would even figure out anything else that would work. We could have potentially, I mean, it was a near-death cycle if you really look for the company. But I mean, the whole idea is that you don't lose sleep over it, stay calm and continue to innovate. You will figure out things that really are as aspirational as your ambitions are.
Thank you, sir. So it really is inspiring how you stay motivated despite all the failures you've faced. So are there any missed opportunities in your business practice that you wish to have leveraged?
So I think opportunity is probably very subjective. So I mean, there could have been scenarios and instances where we could have tried something and done something and something else would have happened. So since it has not happened, I would not really call it an opportunity. It was hope that a lot of things would have happened. But again, so basically on this, there's a very beautiful, you can say, theory of Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO, that as a, you can say, leader, your primary job is to minimize regrets. So if that comes at a cost of trying out something, you should always go and do it, so long as the downside of whatever you are going to try is not massive. Obviously, if the downside is not going to kill you, you will still survive and things won't look very, very bad and ugly. You should always try it. And as a leader, it's your primary responsibility to make sure that you minimize regrets, not just for yourself, but for the entire organization that you're leading. So I really, really believe in that very aggressively, which is why we kind of do a lot of experiments. Inside Perpule, we have a very, very active experiments team, which kind of keeps running every new potential idea, which can be as futuristic as it may sound. And whether it works or it doesn't is secondary. We would try it out with all the right resources and the hunger most of the times. And if it works, we will kind of merge it with the core offerings of the product and the, you can say, business. If it doesn't, we'll kind of take the learnings from it, share it with everybody else internally and kind of shelf the project. That's how we kind of look at it. But again, like I said, you can only minimize it. You can't make it zero. So there are always things that we could have done better if we go back probably in past. That will always be there.
So going back to retail and being the CEO of one of the fastest growing retail companies in India, how did you identify your domain of interest in entrepreneurship? And what was it that made you identify that your domain of interest is retail?
A good question again. So I think couple of things on this. It's not one point which kind of gave me that visibility to really build a business in the retail tech space. I think couple of things. So first is that I mean, I wasn't really an avid shopper, but I've been to pretty much all the types of stores in India, in US while I was working for Goldman. And if you really go to a store on a weekend or you go on a festive season like a Black Friday in the US or a Diwali in India or any other equivalent in any other country, you would see retail stores are very, very chaotic. The kind of rush that they have, the kind of queues that they have, the experience is phenomenally broken. So I think that was a very key fundamental trigger for me, that why are people really doing this, right? I mean, just for the sake of buying 10 items, they have to stand in lines for 25 minutes. This is not acceptable. I mean, how much time is really being lost at scale? It's just insane. So I think that was a key significant driver for me to get really deep inside retail to understand. Second was the aspiration always was to really build a very large business. And for a very large business, you really need a very large market. And honestly, if you really see, retail contributes 12% to India's GDP. It is what employs almost 10% of people workforce of India. So it's a very, very large market. Obviously, India is not a small country. So 12% contribution to the GDP is probably one of the largest industries we have in India. If not, I mean, at least the top 3-4 markets that we have. So I think that was the second significant factor for me to really consider retail and retail tech very seriously before starting this business. And the third and the most critical thing, again, this is more, you can say cliche, but it's one of the most interesting lines I read in a book. It's basically called The Four. It's a book by Ben Casnocha where he talks about the four largest tech companies in the world. So on that, in that, there's a very interesting line which says, the richest man of 20th century got minimum wage employees to sell you stuff. He's basically talking about Sam Walton and Walmart. Walmart got absolute minimum wage employees to sell you stuff, and that made Walmart the largest company of the 20th century and Sam Walton the richest man on earth. Then the second part of that is the richest man of 21st century got zero wage robots to sell you stuff. Now he's talking about Jeff Bezos and Amazon. So I think that's a very, very powerful, very, very, you can say, inspirational statement itself. That all of these guys, right, which have built the largest companies on earth are all retail companies. They're just looking at retail from a very different lens. So I think that was really fundamentally bestowed upon me and was super inspirational for me to understand and think of before really starting this business.
That is some great advice for our entrepreneurial ecosystem in NITK, sir. So leaving aside retail, what was it like to be nominated for Forbes 30 under 30? And how has it been nominated for it impacted your company and your professional life?
So I think it definitely feels great. Obviously, it's one of the most prestigious lists of, successful people of my age. So I think I'm very happy and great. It's great to be on the list and really happy that Forbes actually found me eligible and worthwhile on the list. So I think thanks to them for really identifying what we have been doing. It's definitely, because as an entrepreneur, you don't get a lot of rewards. You are more kind of interested in giving rewards, making things better for your team, employees, your clients, customers. You're always doing for others. So when someone does something for you, it's a very, very good feeling, because for entrepreneurs, it doesn't happen more often. You get used to it. It's nothing to really feel sad about. But whenever it happens, these awards like these, they really make you very, very happy. So I think that's something which definitely made not just me, the entire team also feel great about themselves, because it's their efforts which really made us worthwhile to be on that list. So I think it made everyone really, really happy.
All right, sir, that's great to hear, and that's really inspiring. Now I have a question which you've probably been asked a number of times over the years, and I think our NITK viewers will be eager to hear. How has life in NITK shaped you to become the person you are today? And what would your advice be to the students of NITK who wish to be entrepreneurs in the near future?
Sure. I think this, it's honestly, asked the most, but it still is my favorite question, because, NITK is something which is very close to my heart and will always be. I loved the time in college. It couldn't have been better than what it was. So thankful to all my colleagues, batchmates, everyone who really made it so interesting for me. But honestly, if you really see, it has significantly contributed. What I was before college, what I was after college has really shaped me and improved me at many, many levels. And it's always great to surround you with a bunch of really smart people who are really good at what they do, whether it's studies, it's academics, or it's ambition, or it's building businesses, or it's taking the most you can say highly paid job. It's always great to surround yourself with a bunch of really, really good people, and I was fortunate to kind of really do that. My wing, all my friends are like super amazing bunch of folks. So over the 4 years, the kind of interactions that I had with them, I obviously improved a lot as a person, as an individual. My thought process widened a lot. It really gave me a sense to understand what are the different aspirations of people, right? And it is so, you can say, varying, right? Somebody wants to take up the most paying job on the campus. Somebody wants to go to PhD. So I think the sheer number of options and things that people like to pursue really makes you rethink about your own personal choices. Are they really significant enough? And you can always take inspiration from your peers just for the sake of their ambition. So that is something that I really, you can say, took from all my seniors, colleagues, even some of the professors, that the hunger in the college is just absolutely amazing. Everyone is striving to do something great in whatever they really want to. And I was not like that before, honestly. I was a very, you can say, a short ambition, small ambition kind of a person. My ambition amplified at different levels during my 4 years at college, and I think that is something which I will always keep with me forever, and it is still scaling. The whole idea there is, if you surround yourself with a bunch of really smart people, you will learn a lot and you will improve a lot as an individual. I think that is what really happened to me as well. I love coming on these sessions to discuss about all of these with college. So thanks a lot for calling me here. It's definitely great to be back in any form and manner in which you can be, because college is something that all of us would really love post our graduation as well. Coming to the second piece, which is around what advice I would give to entrepreneurs is, I think, a couple of things. First would be that people really you can say, value the, you can say, benefits of really talking to people. So thankfully, you can say clubs like ECell and the others in college, which are doing any related activity also to entrepreneurship, have a lot of access. And this is something that students in college should really leverage. They should really use you guys to help get connections with real entrepreneurs, at least the NITK entrepreneurs. And trust me, there are lots of them. I mean, once I graduated of college, I really got to know there are at least some 15, 20 really successful entrepreneurs in the last, you can say, 10 years. So I think all of them are quite hungry and all of them love interacting with college and the students of college. So I think this is something that students should understand and try to leverage as much as possible, because this can really help you widen your thought process and get wisdom, because these are the bunch of folks who have really struggled a lot to get where they are, and they're very open to share their stories of success and failure. So it gives a lot of inspiration, and more than that, it definitely gives you a lot of learning. So that is first. Second would be, take entrepreneurship more seriously, because the rewards are really good. I mean, the kind of struggle, stress that you will go through over a period of say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years is really rewarding post that. It depends on what domain, what business, etc. you are really into. But even if you build a great business, it's definitely, there's nothing like that. But even if you don't build, even if you fail, the market appreciates this so much, right? I have a lot of friends who kind of tried to build their businesses, struggled for 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, shut down the business, went back to job. People in job also appreciate this so much, because the kind of discipline that you have to really go through during entrepreneurship is phenomenal. You definitely don't get anything remotely close to that while taking job wherever you can. So I think the industry is very appreciative of this. More than that, the largest of the companies in the world are appreciating the culture of entrepreneurship a lot. And running your own business in whatever capacity, success or failure, doesn't matter. Just trying that out gives you that sense of, you can say, entrepreneurship. And it just basically transforms your DNA. The whole way in which you operate becomes a lot more entrepreneurial, whether you are running your business or you are just doing a job is secondary. And that whole culture and spirit of entrepreneurship is something that the whole world really appreciates a lot right now. So I think bottom up, basically what I mean to say is that the downside is absolutely nothing. It's just the, you can say, inner conviction that you can build, that you really want to try a hand at entrepreneurship before you really try out something else in life. I mean, it's perfectly fine. You may do it right out of college, you may do it 5 years out of college, or anywhere in between, or 10 years out of college, is all secondary. But taking it more seriously is actually a pretty interesting thing, because the downsides are absolutely nothing and the upsides are a lot, whether you fail or succeed.
Thank you so much, sir. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. Thank you, sir, for your insights on your very inspiring entrepreneurial path and for taking the time out to make this happen. By sharing your journey with our listeners, I'm sure you have inspired many in and around NITK who wish to have their own startup in upcoming years. I would also like to thank our listeners. I hope you take something valuable from today's episode of Startup Stories. Until next time, stay home and stay safe.